Hi everyone, and welcome back to a card tutorial this time. And this card has been made using the Poppies kit by Knitwit Collections. It's full of lovely poppies in oranges and reds, lovely greens and everything. And this was a tutorial I've seen on YouTube with Srushti Patil. I don't know how to say it properly. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. But I figured it out with the measures. I played around with the measurements and things to make it nice and easy and more into a card shape. So my scoreboard used inches, she was using centimeters. So now we can actually make one like this. Now, don't be frightened. It looks far more complicated than it is. And it's called the Iris folded card. I think it's because of like the old camera shutters. It folds in on itself like so. So diolch. The great thing about the digital kits with Knitwit is there's an empty space there. So I was able to add my own sentiment in Welsh for my own use. As you can see, it all just folds in and pops in place. So a lovely card. Something a little bit different. Could also work as a drop-in for your album, or you could even stick it onto an album page and have a bit of interactivity, but a lot of fun. So grab a scoreboard, grab your scoring tool, and choose what papers you're going to be using, and let's get going. So to begin the card, that's all I've got is my piece of cardstock. Don't use something that's too thick. So a 300 you wouldn't want to be using here. Use quite a lightweight cardstock because you're going to be folding it and you're going to have 3 and 4 layers at a time. So if you're going to use a thick one, it's going to be really hard to fold and manipulate into place. The one I've got here is a 220 GSM. So I've gone for some craft brown today. So I said that's my 8x8 piece, my scoreboard, and then I've got my ruler and a pencil just to do some measurements. But don't worry, the measurements are very easy today. So I'm going to start by putting my card into my scoreboard, and I'm going to mark 4 inches. So just in half. I'm just going to come down about an inch or so. Now, don't worry too much about that, but you can see where the 2-inch mark is on the left-hand side. You don't want to go lower than 2 inches. Okay. And rotate it and do the same. So 4 inches and down we go. 4 inches, so 2 inches is there. I don't want to go further than there. So don't worry, this doesn't have to be accurate at this moment. So I've marked a line at 4 inches on each side. Now I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to line up my inches side with my score line, with that 4-inch line. I'm just going to make a mark at 2 inches. Rotate it. I'm going to repeat the same on all sides. And the last one. And now I'm going to bring my scoring tool back and I'm going to mark down to that score line and around. So I'm retracing that score line I had before and stopping where my pencil mark is. So coming down, stopping at the pencil mark, and down and swapping at the pencil mark. I'm going to put my scoreboard to one side for a second, and I will need it again soon. What I'm going to do now is, where each of these 4 lines end, I'm going to, can I see with the light? Join from that pencil mark and where that score line intersect to here and round in a diamond formation. So I'm placing my ball tool in the channel for my score where the pencil line is, and I'm scoring to the other one. I'm rotating it and joining up all four and the board itself is moved. Actually, I could just move the whole board as well, it wouldn't matter. There we go. So what I've got now, I don't think it'll show up on the craft card, but there's a diamond scored here. I'm going to bring my scoreboard back. Place it back in. And I'm going to go to 6 inches this time. I'm going to come down and you should meet the corner of the diamond. Rotate it from 6 down to the corner of the diamond. And the last one. So I've joined everything up. Now this is craft card, so the back is slightly lighter than the front. If you're just using your black or your white cardstock, you don't need to worry too much, but I'm going to do it with the side I want facing me face up. Okay, so I've got my craft stock. This is the side I want to work on. So I'm going to make all my long lines, the ones we did at the 6 inch, into mountains. Now, I'm just teasing here. I'm not worried about going too far in yet. So we're going to do mountain on the long. So just start to tease it. You can see this is where the score line ends. I'm just sort of working it gently that way. You don't want to do the harsh crease lines. So I'm just sort of working my way around. I'm sort of just teasing the cardstock into where I want it to go. The short ones, the 4 inch ones, I'm going to start making into valleys. So I'm just starting at the edge and working down. So I'm just sort of training my card to where I want it to go later. And then your diamond is also going to be valleys. So I find it easier just to keep my finger on that diagonal line and just bend it up. So you see it's going into a valley. And here. And I'm just working my way around the diamond, squeezing it into the valleys. And as you start working your way around, each of these will start folding where they want to go. So bringing all these long ones in as mountains. Just sort of tease it. Don't force it in too quickly. It'll come once it's ready. So just keep working it and working it and working. And you'll see, eventually, it's sort of twisting on itself. So there's no harsh score lines or anything like that, burnishing or anything. You're just manipulating it and maneuvering it into place. Now that it's in place, you can take your bone folder and you can burnish your score lines. And that then is your iris card. So it opens, and the more you do it, the easier it actually folds each time. And there we go, that's all there is to the card base itself. So each of those strips are now going to be 2 inches by 4 inches. And then in the middle, because it's going to be on the diamond, it's quite an awkward one. So it's not an easy size. It's actually like 16ths and things. But I found that a 2 3/4 inch square fits inside. Now I've used my Poppies kit by Knitwit Collections. So I've already layered on top, but there's nothing stopping you here using your pattern papers and using a plain one and then a patterned one on top. So just because I'm using a DigiKit doesn't mean you can't use whatever papers you've got at home. Just don't use anything too thick. And if it is quite thick, don't do the double layers. So I'm just dropping that in the center. Now the 4 corner ones are 2 by 4. So here I've got some pieces now which are 1/4 inch less. So it's 1 3/4 by 3 3/4. And I'm just inking the edge with some vintage photo, just because it goes nicely with the craft card. And it's just getting away of any white bits I've left from my cutting. And you'll notice I put a little flower and laid that on top. But again, if you're not happy laying your digital images, just cut them out of your paper and stick them on. You know, there's a way around it. Just because it says digital, people get frightened, but there's no need to be, because you can just use a digital kit as a normal craft kit just by printing everything separate. So if I was to make this, I would print 1 sheet of the red card, just go into my kit and go File, Print, and print 1 full sheet. And then I would print one of the florals and cut them at 1 1/2 by 3 1/2 and stick them on. And then stick on a flower afterwards. You know, there are ways around everything. So I'm just going to work my way. And the last one. There we go. Those were the easier ones. And then when you fold it in, you'll end up with those flowers making a nice circle or wreath type shape. And you open it up and it shows you the middle bit. Now, if you wanted to cover these, I've used the same sized rectangles. And that's all I'm going to do is I'm going to place it where I want it to go. So this is where my score line is. And I'm just going to go a little bit to the left of it. So it's a little bit shorter. And then that will fit in that way. I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but it's just the quickest way for me. And I don't mind that I haven't got that red going there because I've got the red on my central panel already. But if you wanted to, you'd have to do your red and then you'd have to put your floral on top. There we go. And we're just going to repeat that. So this is where the score lines are. I'm just going to cut it a little shorter. So although it looks quite impressive and intricate, all the elements individually are not too bad. There's the, I'm just going to make it a bit shorter. I'm sure there'll be some of you out there going, oh, we can measure this and measure this. I'm just doing it the quick way. One more bit here. And we just got one final one. That's what the score lines are. We cut it a little bit short. And here we go. So the reason I cut it a little bit shorter than the score line rather on the score line, if it was on the score line, it would just curl and get stuck in that crease when we fold it. So that's why we just need to shrink it that little tiny bit. And there's our card lid. Let me put my top on the glue before it dries. That is my iris folded card, inspired by Srushti Patil. I don't think I'm saying that right, but a really ingenious idea, really effective. And as I said, I'll link to her original method. If you like working in centimeters and things, you can follow it there. And I should wait for my glue to dry, really. But let's just go for it. There we are, popped in. And as I say, the more you play with it now, the more the card trains to fold properly. So thank you for watching. And if you do have a go at making this iris card following my dimensions here, I'd love for you to share with me in my Facebook group, Paper Crafting with Paul. Also head over to Knitwit Collection so you can have a look at other digital kits they've got. You can really see the quality of their kits. They print beautifully. And yes, give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment as well. I'd love to hear what you think of them. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.